Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm actually shooting this on Tuesday afternoon / evening. Thought I'd do a little drive and talk. Anyway, today's video. Well, right now I'm currently heading to Ames, Iowa, which is north of Des Moines. But I thought today's video, I've been talking about periods from my past. In today's video, I wanted to talk about the first time that I traveled internationally by myself. So, in 2008, I'd been I hadn't traveled in a long time, and at the time I was driving a taxi, and I really wanted to explore overseas. And a fortuitous encounter with a passenger late one evening while I was driving him to the bar, wherever he was heading, I don't remember, and he had told me about the fact that he was currently living in the Dominican Republic. Now, I've heard of it, or had heard of it, of course. Didn't know a lot about it, but he was visiting back here in Des Moines. I guess he was from here. I don't remember, and just in the short time that I had him in my car, he had so thoroughly sold me on the Dominican Republic, how great it was, that I'm kind of, I'm an experimental person. I'm like, you know what? This guy likes it. Let me give it a try, That was my attitude about it. So I thought, what the heck? So I saved up a bunch of money, and I want to say it was approximately, I had about, I don't know, maybe just about $10,000 in cash, and that was after I bought the plane ticket and everything. So, and I had already done a little bit of research on places that I was looking to stay. Anyway, I found a place to rent online from back in Des Moines. I don't remember the name. I actually only ended up staying there for a week once I arrived, but I do remember. So I actually got into the Dominican Republic. I want to say it was actually kind of late in the afternoon, maybe. Tell you what, the memories on that one are kind of hazy. I don't really remember, but so I got kind of a short stay apartment until I could get better grounded. And as they say, you should never ever drink the water in a developing country. And I just remember, so I woke up one night, like only my first or second night there, and man, I was just parched. I was just so friggin' thirsty. So I didn't have a bottle of water. I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't as prepared on that. But so I just drank from the faucet, just to kind of parch my thirst. But combined with whatever I drank, which I'm sure had all sorts of whatever in it, floating viruses or whatever, but combined with the stress that I was in a foreign country alone, didn't know anybody there, and I'm sitting there trying to make a sort of new life for myself. And so I actually got just sick as a dog, and I was laid up for actually several days. It wasn't fun. Again, I was kind of a nervous wreck because I was by myself. But I do remember, before having even arrived, I had arranged a sort of fixer, I guess, to meet up with, who could help me open up a local bank account. And that he did. He helped me do that. Truth be told, I probably could have done it myself with the help of a translator and paid probably less. That's neither here nor there. But so I did get that opened during that time where I wasn't feeling really well, and I wasn't even that hungry. But there was one night I decided to venture out and see what I could find. And I actually came across a restaurant right in the corner, or on the corner of a major pedestrian walking area, what they call the Malecón, which is a pretty popular area of the capital in Santo Domingo, the touristy area. Anyway, so I got a dish, and I'm sitting there eating by myself, and the food was actually pretty good. Not gonna lie, it was actually pretty delicious. And I don't recall the prices being that high either. They were pretty affordable. But I do distinctly recall, so one woman, a street beggar, had approached me, and maybe in times past I might have said what she verbally said to me. It consisted of just 2 words, but long story short, basically she was offering sex. Let's just put it that way. And I politely declined because I definitely was not interested. That's kind of a heck of a thing to hit a guy with, to just blatantly come up and, while he's eating dinner and asking if he wants to go somewhere, I guess. But anyway, I declined. That was a highlight of my first week there for sure. Anyway, as I started to feel better towards the end of the first week there, I did end up exploring the area slightly more, and I actually found a long-term, or rather longer term, but a long-term sort of apartment/hotel, and it was owned by a Swiss gentleman. I ended up deciding to move from the place that I was in to this apartment/hotel, and I absolutely do not regret it because it was so much nicer and it was so much closer to the tourist area. I don't recall the price, but in any case, I paid for some period up front because I obviously had that $10,000 on me. And kind of come back to the beginning real quick. The reason I was even looking to live overseas to begin with, because at the time I was maybe not a successful professional gambler, but I was effectively gambling for a living. Now, I don't know if your memory is that great, but you might recall back about 2006, George Bush had signed a bill outlawing online wagering or gambling. And it is something I had been doing for a while, but now I could no longer do it because of this legislation that he had signed. And that was the reason I had been saving to finally move to another country, but I was just trying to figure out which one. But so that's one of the reasons I ended up choosing the Dominican Republic, or to be more precise, I was just looking kind of maybe for the Caribbean, perhaps. I was even kind of looking into Belize even. But now that I had my bank account opened in the Dominican Republic, and now I had a more stable place at the apartment/hotel, I could now sort of resume what I was doing in the Dominican Republic. And again, I wasn't necessarily the greatest or successful, but I made money here and there. But again, ultimately, at the end of the day, it probably was not a wise career choice for me to pursue in the end. But my primary focus was the UK horse racing market, and also soccer, or as the rest of the world calls it, football. So those were the two things that I primarily focused on for wagering. And it was not entirely unheard of for me to wager $1,000 on a single bet or gamble. For sure, I was pretty aggressive. There was times where I would win, and there was times where I would definitely lose some money. But long story short, I didn't have very good, and I'm talking outside of the wagering, gambling, betting, and all that stuff, I didn't have the fiscal discipline that I really needed to survive long term, especially with a very unsure plan that is trying to live off gambling. So the unfortunate reality is I actually kind of burned through that money quicker than I had anticipated, or definitely had hoped. It hadn't dawned on me that I should have probably explored options for working down there, whether it's as simple as teaching English or maybe working for an American company down there. I know a lot of young German people. I'm thinking of one girl in particular. She was from Germany, and she moved to the Dominican Republic to work in hotel management, and she was doing something with promotions or something. So it's not that they wouldn't hire you, but why I didn't think about doing this sort of thing is anybody's guess. Long story short, after about 2 months, I was definitely running dangerously low on money. I was spending carelessly, I guess. That would be one polite way of saying it. And so I actually did have to nip that whole trip right in the bud. But let me talk about some of the good points of the Dominican Republic. One, the people were very friendly. Now, were there probably scammers amongst, the targeting, foreign travelers? I'm sure there were. I didn't actually encounter them that often, save for one instance. I'll tell you a story about that in just a moment. But it was very scenic in the sense that there are lots of beaches. Now, to my detriment, I did not travel outside of the capital at all. So I didn't get to go to like a lot of these really wonderful beaches up to the north or even the east side of the country. But again, the people were great. The food was pretty solid. I don't recall the prices being especially out of control. I did make a fair amount of friends. Some good people down there for sure. I had a lot of fun interacting with others. I really enjoyed my hotel room, the second one. And overall, it was a very positive experience, despite getting sick as a dog during that first week. And also my poor spending habits. But I can only blame that on myself, I admit it. So anyway, yeah, I definitely would highly recommend anybody who's interested in exploring a foreign country to consider the Dominican Republic. It's a developing country, but if you're into that sort of thing, which I am, I'm not into necessarily upscale, first world, expensive, just, you know, these people are real. Like, you can sit out there in your lawn chair, for example, in your front yard, and as the neighbors walk by to the local convenience store, you can like literally say hi to them and, you know, ask how their day is, type of thing. But yeah, I don't know, it was a really great experience. It was shorter than I unfortunately would have preferred it to be. I was hoping to be there at least 1 year and maybe even longer. And if I had had more wits about me, I probably would have been. But that is my Dominican Republic story. Again, that was from, actually February of 2008 through March of 2008, basically those 2 months. And then, unfortunately, when I came back, I had to resume driving a taxi again, which will be some stories for another video for sure. But any case, I hope you have enjoyed this drive-in talk, if you will. What you are seeing right now, I am driving north on I-35. I am just north of Ankeny, Iowa, which is a community immediately north of Des Moines. And I am on my way to Ames. For whatever reason, outside my window looks much darker than it does in the video. I don't know why. It looks lighter in the video. But yeah, the sun is definitely set. It's cloudy. As you can see, we got a fair bit of construction in the middle, whatever you call this thing, the median. But and there's a lot of traffic on I-35, as you can expect. But if you enjoyed this video, please like, please comment, please consider subscribing, and I would be very grateful. And I will see you again soon. Thank you.